In a little shop on the side of the road, a youngster continues not getting his ideal stuffed animal, a toy from a claw machine. The primary character, Nick, passes by him on crutches with food to go. Noticing the boy's futile efforts, he asks him which toy he's attempting to obtain. Putting the coffee aside, Nick pulls out a pen and sketches an entire diagram directly on the glass wall of the machine, which describes in full how to achieve the toy the boy desires. In addition, he provides the kid $1 to say goodbye and wishes him good luck. Nick, his girlfriend Haley, and their pals Jonah are on a lengthy road journey across the southern United States, from Massachusetts to California. They are all students at MIT, which stands for Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but because Haley is traveling on exchange to another university for a full year, the brothers decide to keep her company on the way. On their route, they see numerous fascinating sights and have all types of fun, but Nick feels sometimes depressed, recalling the days when his legs used to function and he used to go his carefree runs in the woods. In the middle of the night, Nick wakes up in a hotel where he and his companions agreed to remain for the night. That's when he gets an odd message from an unknown contact bearing the nickname Nomad. Nick carefully gets ready, softly awakens his buddy, and informs him that their mystery acquaintance has returned. Grabbing the laptop, they hurry to the bathroom. There, the pals complain to Nomad that he massively messed them over when he hacked the MIT server. Since this event was blamed on them, they are facing expulsion from the institution. The stranger makes fun of them, underlining that MIT is an institution for infants. Nick informs him to cautious, since they will discover out his identity. Suddenly, they get a link in their email. Click on it, and after a fast download procedure, they see an image of themselves in the bedroom on the screen. They recognize that the image is being aired from a laptop camera of Haley, who is quietly asleep. The astonished guys instantly turn it off, go to the bathroom, and, like promising young technicians, aim to uncover the mystery hacker. With tremendous enthusiasm, they connect via Linux and attempt to build the connection. When Nick asks Jonah to type some text to test it, he humorously writes the line, "Do androids dream of electrified sheep?" Appreciating the clever allusion to the renowned book of the renowned science fiction writer Philip Dick, Nick lightheartedly calls his buddy a stupid, which in this situation sounds more like a compliment than an insult. Then, Jonah informs Nick the addresses of the relevant servers, and they ascertain that the coordinates they require are in the state of Nevada. Right at this time, Haley takes the lads by surprise and furiously reminds them that someone needs to drive in the morning. On the way, Jonah's laptop gets a recent shot of Haley's automobile from a traffic CCTV camera. He hands the computer to Nick, who is impressed by their foe. Haley discovers a snapshot of her automobile on the screen and expresses her worries regarding this spy. She feels the lad should quit aggravating him and he would simply leave them alone. She's confident that this is merely an underage prodigy who desires recognition. In a little store at the gas station, the lads debate their issue. Nick is inclined to heed to Haley's advice, but Jonah insists on completing what they begun and putting the arrogant hacker in his place, especially because Nevada is on the way. At the next halt, Nick walks out to grab coffee, leaving Haley and Jonah alone. The girl quickly questions her pal about Nick's feelings about her transfer, since she feels that he's steadily getting more distant towards her. Jonah admits that it's not easy for Nick, but because they're also his greatest buddies, he doesn't want to become engaged in their relationship and tells her to straighten things out between themselves. Then, they discover that, exiting the shop, Nick slips and pours the coffee. Jonah and Haley hurry to aid, yet Nick softly assures that he is alright, then he can go fetch the coffee again. Haley rushes after Nick and offers to assist. The man informs her rather bluntly that she won't have to worry about him for much longer. Haley is irritated and resolves to grab some solitude on the brink of a magnificent canyon. Nick joins her and apologizes. He admits if the illness is advancing fast and soon he will be restricted to a wheelchair, and he finds the prospect of her departing him sooner or later unpleasant. But he doesn't want to be a burden to her or for her to be with him solely out of sympathy. Haley says that it's not fair to criticize her for anything that hasn't even occurred yet. Then, she starts to weep, takes off the necklace Nick handed her and tosses it into the abyss. The characters continue their trip, moving in the direction of the Nomad's coordinates. The boys agree that Haley shouldn't travel with them and offer to drop her off first. However, the girl says she wants to travel with them, since she wants to look at that idiot, too. At night, they reach a mysterious abandoned home in the midst of the desert. After some reluctance, the guys venture inside the cottage, but Haley is requested to remain in the car. When they learn that the home is vacant, the pals relax a bit and even attempt to joke around. In the basement, they uncover dust-covered server racks. Suddenly, they hear Haley's shout from outside and run to aid her. The men approach to the automobile and notice that all the doors are open, and the radio is randomly switching frequencies frequencies. They call Haley's name, and Nick waves a flashlight about in terror. At some time he sees her, but she immediately soars into the air and vanishes into the darkness. Then, weird lights arise, as the lads hurry in their way. Nick regains consciousness from a bright light. He sees people in hazmat suits surrounding him in a blur. He is escorted to a separate office in a wheelchair. There he is visited by a doctor who presents himself as Wallace Damon, the head of the rescue crew that seeks to aid them. In turn, Nick identifies himself as Nicholas Eastman. He instantly asks about where he is. The doctor answers that first they need to comprehend the problem and asks when they originally got the signal. Nick doesn't grasp what signal they're talking about and wonders why he can't move and what happened to them. Dr. Damon thinks that an astounding event occurred. They had communication with the EBE. Nick seeks to understand the abbreviation he's never heard before, and the doctor says that it is an extraterrestrial organic organism. Confused, Nick requests to contact his parents and take him to Haley and Jonah, but Wallace insists that it's impossible. Nick then asks why they're all in hazmat outfits. The doctor responds that there's an extremely high likelihood of extraterrestrial contamination, therefore they're simply making sure. After that, Nick obtains a minor nosebleed, but the doctor tells him he's fine and advises discussing more about it tomorrow. When Nick is left alone in the ward, he sees an odd tattoo on his wrist that looks like some sort of code. Looking around, he discovers that he ended up at some subterranean research institute, where he is being observed at every turn, and even the brightness outside the window is phony. When Nick is brought down the corridor again, he observes numerous compartments being cleaned from the aftermath of several trials. On the route he comes upon a solitary wall clock, but it doesn't function. All of a sudden, he finds Haley resting on the bed in one of the wards. Nick attempts to resist and begs the staff member to allow him speak to his girlfriend, yet the staff member persistently escorts him to Dr. Damon's next session. Nick quickly asks the doctor about Haley and begs to talk to her. He responds that that is impossible at the time. He assures him that the child is secure, but to aid her, Nick should collaborate with them. The doctor asks the youngster a couple basic things like how many fingers he is holding up and whether he's an earthling, but then goes back to questioning about the signal. Nick wonders whether he's talking about the signal from Nomad, and the doctor says yes. He subsequently admits that he initially acquired it at MIT when he broke into several crucial servers. Then, the doctor's helper comes a TV and Wallace stops Nick's narrative to show him anything crucial. He switches on a video of him with Jonah wandering around the abandoned home, and suddenly one of the shots displays an extraterrestrial face hidden under the foliage of trees. Shocked, Nick is at a loss for words, and the doctor adds that it was not a hacker at all. Nick is once again alone in his ward. His melancholy causes him lose his appetite, thus he tosses his supper plate on the floor. Suddenly, he hears Jonah's voice from the ventilation shaft, who informs him that he's trapped someplace. The boy also adds that he doesn't feel too good and that he's in a rush to get someplace. During the following encounter, the doctor compels Nick to take basic tests to discover forms, colors, and compatibility. The boy gets irritated with the workouts, since they are substantially lower than his intellectual level. He was shocked because, since he came here, he just saw one clock and it continually displays 1:30. Wallace answers that the clock is merely shattered and tells him that the reason why he doesn't want to perform the workouts is not because he's so brilliant, but because he's dumb and obstinate. Nick falls for this scam and conducts all the tests swiftly and successfully, presenting scientific explanation for his judgments. Afterwards, the furious youngster requests to see Haley or he won't speak another thing. The doctor agrees and brings Nick to her room. He explains that Haley can't be talked to right now because she's in a coma. However, when she wakes up, he will be the first to see her. In his ward, Nick does some clever tinkering with cookies and medical tubes, which enable him to discover the code to the lock in the hallway through fingerprint detection. He then talks to Jonah again, who tells him that they must be infected with something. Nick is skeptical and expresses confidence that they're fine, but Jonah emphasizes that something is obviously wrong with his body and tells him to get out of here as soon as possible. Nick wants to share the code with his friend, but he complains that he can't feel his own hands and that he's in a hurry to go somewhere again. Meanwhile, the center staff conducts a strange experiment with a cow and a mysterious creature in the dark. The experiment goes out of control and, taking advantage of the chaos, Nick tries to hide in the toilet. However, the employees quickly find him and take him back to the corridor, where he notices terrible scratches on the walls. During another chat with the doctor, Nick wants to know what occurred in the hallway and what they are doing to Jonah. The boy suspects thinking this is all some sort of horrible show utilizing old methods. He feels that this center is probably testing out some obsolete grants from World War II. Things are irrelevant in this day and age, but they still pretend that they are accomplishing something crucial, although it seems rather sad. In the heat of a moment, Nick vows that as soon as he, Haley, and Jonah get out of here, they will do everything to undermine their reputation. After listening to Nick's speech, the doctor points out that his pal Jonah is not here and never was. The man instructs him to stop lying because he is continuously speaking with him via the vent. But Wallace makes Nick question whether it actually is Jonah, as he only ever heard a voice. Then, Nick decides to finally do something and during night, behind the covers, forms a comprehensive escape strategy. During the morning checkup, the doctor doesn't locate the youngster in bed. He discovers his cunning plan beneath the mattress. Meanwhile, Nick manages to capture Haley in her bed and fearlessly strives to get past the mob of wandering employees. Almost nearing the exit, he is approximately to input the code when he is apprehended at last. In his flashback, Nick reminisces about the wonderful moments when he used to run explore the woods and have fun with Haley at the amusement park. In his finest form, he even competed in athletics events. Suddenly, Nick wakes up to Haley quietly calling his name. He regains awareness next to her in a vividly lighted chamber. They attempt to hold hands, but one of the medical professionals separates them. The weaker girl replies that she feels much better, and she also had a fantastic dream where Nick won a competition. Then, she falls asleep, deeply furious. The youngster forcefully fights the staff who strive to restrict him. Struggling, he slips off the bed, as the personnel cautiously depart the ward. Lying on the floor, Nick finds that place of legs. He now possesses some type of high-tech prostheses. He is scared of what he sees and starts to fear. Dr. Damon, somebody is observing Nick through the glass, begs him to let them inject a needle into his vein for his own safety. However, the boy doesn't listen to him and effortlessly knocks down the front door in a bout of wrath. Taking Haley with him, he takes full use of his new strength and smashes all impediments in his path. Aware of the boy's power, the staff don't even attempt to stand in his way. By the elevator, the doctor finally catches up with Nick and tells him not to do this, because he won't be able to defend him outside the station. Having no reason to believe Dr. Damon, Nick makes his way to the subterranean passages, which he and Haley utilize to get out. They wander traversing the desert when they unexpectedly stumble upon a passing automobile with a weird elderly woman, who sees angels everywhere. Reaching the closest gas station, Nick attempts to phone someone for aid, but the phone oddly doesn't work. At that time, he watches a report on the TV about two afflicted individuals called Nicholas Eastman and Haley Peterson, who have vanished from a nearby research station. Suddenly, Nick sees Haley getting into a truck and instantly driving off in an unknown direction. The man dashes out of the cafe. He does his hardest to catch up with them. He swiftly catches up with the vehicle and gets atop the threshold of the taxi, but the driver strikes him with the door and tosses him into the road. Having recovered a bit, Nick stands up and, like a mad Terminator, chases after the truck again. Realizing that this is no longer a joke, the driver desperately goes for his pistol, but Haley stops him. The main protagonists decide to abandon the motorist on the side of the road, but he shouts out that they won't escape far. Nick and Haley continue their trip into the desert, but shortly they arrive upon a bizarre enormous ditch. This closes off the whole roadway and makes their further trip difficult. Meanwhile, the search team headed by Dr. Damon attempts to track the fugitive's steps and discovers that odd elderly woman. Wallace interrogates the lady about her probable communication with the fugitives. During the discussion, she abruptly rises into the air and it comes out that she isn't a person, but rather a programmed robot. In an attempt to go around the canyon, Nick and Haley stumble upon an abandoned tourist center. There they locate a map of the region, but it confuses them more than it helps. Eventually, they grow fatigued and decide to remain there for the night. While roaming about the property, Nick and Haley find Jonah in a hazmat suit. In pursuit of the fugitives, the Special Forces crew led by Damon visits the vehicle driver's home. The doctor attempts to ask the guy some questions, but he urges them to get out of his residence. The guy is unable to respond any of Wallace's queries concerning the home, family, pets, or their names, and starts to demonstrate unjustified aggression. Not learning something fascinating, Damon kills the foolish robot in cold blood. As Nick puts Haley to bed, he finds an odd metal implant poking from one of her higher vertebrae, as well as a number tattoo comparable to his own. Jonah reveals to Nick that it isn't a serial code of a single individual, but of the zone in general, as the numerals on the tattoo are the same for everyone. He thinks that they are in Area 51, because the digits 2, 3, 5, 41 add up to the number 51. According to him, everything around them is a portion of the the experiment and a full simulation. Even the products and commodities in the shop are false. Some awful trials are being undertaken on them, as on rats. Then, Jonah discloses to Nick that instead of arms, he now has cybernetic prostheses comparable to the ones on Nick's legs. Friends determine that, in any situation, they need to get out of here, and when the dawn arrives, they follow the only path that can get them to civilization. On the journey, the heroes come upon a checkpoint, and Nick and Haley hide in the trunk of the vehicle. Dressed in a hazmat suit, Jonah pretends to be an employee and attempts to explain to security that he has clearance to go. However, the guards are suspicious of him and want him to get out of the automobile. Jonah accelerates suddenly, however the vehicle is obstructed by concrete blocks. To deflect attention from his pals, Jonah rushes out of the vehicle and, under fire, makes his way inside the guardhouse. There he discovers a laptop and attempts to deactivate the blocks stopping the vehicle from moving. But immediately a grenade flies into the room and destroys everything nearby. Badly wounded, Jonah yet regains consciousness, recovers his damaged glasses, and attempts to get to the vehicle. But he has additional bullets fired in the back on his way to the pickup. Nick attempts to aid his buddy, but Jonah instructs him to get into the driver's seat and go away. After some contemplation and fond recollections, Nick listens to Jonah, while Jonah himself chooses to distract the enemy. He crushes concrete blocks using his very powerful fists, enabling Nick and Haley to flee. Jonah is encircled by troops on all sides, but he bravely chooses to give them one final battle. With all his power, he strikes the ground and a strong shock wave destroys everything around. After some time on the journey, they meet a roadblock of police vehicles orchestrated by Damon and a handful of the armed special forces. Nick decides to break past the roadblock and instructs Haley to buckle up. The man attempts to ram them, but they abruptly hurl the spikes beneath the wheels. This makes it considerably more difficult to manage the truck. It finishes up rolling over. In the crash, Nick says that he and Haley had considerably more great rides in their life, and when they were resting on the grass in the center of the field, it was far more romantic than lying on the asphalt in their own pool of blood. Like now, wounded, the girl professes her love to Nick when a helicopter flies up to them and takes her elsewhere. The person stays laying on the road, but still sits up and stares at the chopper that went Haley. Damon tells him there's no purpose in attempting to catch up with it, and that he should forget about the girl completely. The doctor thinks that Nick should concentrate on himself instead, since he is their big success, and the finest mix of man and extraterrestrial technology. That's when Nick switches his attention to Damon's badge. This is written Nomad backwards. He realizes that the doctor is the mystery hacker. Wallace acknowledges that he is the same Nomad who brought him here, but it was Nick who wanted to find him in the first place. And in all fairness, he discovered precisely what he was searching for. But Nick momentarily wanders down the memory road again, when he observes some encouraging moments with Haley. Then, he becomes enraged, his legs gets full tremendous vigor, and he swiftly takes off, smashing anything in his way. Crossing the bridge, he instantly smashes through an invisible virtual screen, which just mimicked the surrounding landscape. Damon catches up behind him and, smiling, removes his protective mask. Now Nick sees why all the workers, physicians, and special troops were wearing masks and hazardous suits. Behind the allegedly regular human face, they concealed a bundle of metal wires and their alien origin. Nick eventually discovers that he is aboard an extraterrestrial spacecraft, and everything around is merely a copy of the Earth. Inside the technical room, where he appeared after breaking the screen, he sees the familiar numerals 2, 3, 5, 41, while a large spacecraft glides across the boundless universe. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, leave a comment about your favorite movie, and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.